Now, in the Hebrew language, each letter is a picture. It wasn't developed as an audible language. It was developed as a series of pictures. Therefore, each word is a comic strip. Mountain in Hebrew, which is that Hebrew symbols, Ara is our English sort of pronunciation of it, actually means, behold the ruler of rulers. So the word mountain, if you break it down into its Hebrew letters and picture, actually means behold the ruler of rulers. So when we're looking at our spirit as a mountain, that is what it is, a ruler of rulers. It's a place of government and a place of authority. And we need really to understand that if we're going to administer the kingdom. Now, we have to think Hebrew and not Greek. And that is not always easy because we're brought up to think in a Greek manner, which is always about form. What does something look like? When we think of a mountain, we think of what it looks like rather than what it's for. So we need to think function. What is the function of a mountain? The function of a mountain is authority. The function of a throne is rulership. When we come across mountains in the Bible, when we come across them in our dreams, visions, our encounters with God, we need to stop thinking and there's a big lump of rock, things that we climb up and things that we put flag on, because that's the way in which we've seen mountains. We need to think of them as positions of governmental authority. Psalm 2:6, let's read the whole of this. He said to me, you are my son, today I have begotten you. Talking of Jesus, but equally talking about us. We are sons of God. He has created us to be rulers on his mountain. And our spirit is the place of rulership. So the kingdom of God is associated with mountains. Jesus is enthroned as King of Kings, and we're the kings that he's king of. Isaiah 2:2-5 and 12-14 and 17-18 is a really important passage to get hold of. Now it will come about in the last days that the mountain of the house of the Lord. So the house of the Lord is the ecclesia of God, the gathering of his people, which is made up of many dwelling places. John 14 is described as a mountain, which will be established as chief of the mountains. So if there are other mountains in this world, other mountains in the realms of heaven, this, it says, is going to be the chief of the mountains and will be raised above the hills. Because when this mountain is raised up, all the other mountains will look like hills. Now there's a technical height that you have to be a mountain as opposed to a hill. I remember a film once about a place in Wales that they decided they were going to add a few feet to the hill in Wales to make it a mountain. But in reality, we already have that if we understand who we are. And our call as the church, as the ecclesia of God, is to be raised up into that position of authority and government. And what does it say? All the nations will stream to it. Because we will have the government of God. We will be living under the rule of heaven. We will be living in a place where heaven's spiritual authority will be manifested on earth. We will not be subject to the laws of this earth. But these are the things we have to start to establish. The destiny of God's people and the true ecclesia of God and the true government of God is to rule. It's to be that mountain of the house of the Lord raised up. And it's in these days that God is looking to establish this.
Get more from Mike when you join any tier at patreon.com/freedomark.
Daniel is a book which is very significant. It was a book of prophecy. It was a book that was sealed up. And it's a book which is now open. So Daniel 2:34-35, you continued looking until a stone was cut out without hands. We know that stone is Jesus. The stone that the builders rejected became the capstone of the pyramid that held everything together. And it wasn't cut out with hands. In other words, it wasn't human in the same way that we are. It came from heaven. Inasmuch as you saw a stone was cut out of the mountain. So Jesus came out of the mountain of God, out of Eden, out of the place of authority in heaven, and it struck the statue. Now the statue was a prophetic picture of 4 kingdoms: Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome. And this kingdom This new kingdom which was established, this stone, actually struck the statue, became a great mountain, and filled the whole earth. That is God's intention. The kingdom which is established from what Jesus has done is to fill the whole earth, to establish his government through the whole earth. In the days of those kings, the God of heaven will set up a kingdom which will never be destroyed, and that kingdom will not be left for another people. And it will crush and put to an end all these kingdoms, not with military might, but with love. Because that's how the kingdom of God operates, through love. Authority administered through love. And it's not going to be for another people or another time. It's for God's people who are part of that kingdom. Daniel 7. I kept looking until thrones were set up. Those thrones were thrones established for Jesus and for us. They were established for us to occupy governmental authority in the realms of heaven. And the Ancient of Days took his seat. His vesture was like snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was ablaze with flames. Its wheels were a burning fire. A river of fire was flowing and coming from before him. Thousands upon thousands were attending him, and myriads upon myriads were standing before him. We can go to that place, because from that place is where our throne is. Not the thrones that are on our mountains, the throne that we're seated in, the place next to God. It's where the firestones are. It's the place where our eternal destiny is released. And it's a place we're going to go to. Some of you have been there. I've been there a lot of times. It's a fairly intense place, as you can imagine, with a throne blazing with flames and fire and a river of fire flowing. But it's a place we can engage in. The court sat and the books were open. And I kept looking in the night visions, and behold, coming of the clouds of heaven was like the Son of Man. He came to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him. This is what happened after the resurrection. And to him was given dominion, glory, and a kingdom, that all the peoples, nations, and men of every language might serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion which will not pass away, and his kingdom is one which will not be destroyed. We're on the winning side. If we're part of this kingdom, we get to win. Now, it might not seem that way at the moment. It might seem that we're far from winning. But the reality is, we stick with this and we embrace our governmental authority as children of God, we will overcome. Because who does God give the right to sit on the throne? Those who overcome, those who are more than conquerors, those who are victorious, those who actually are taking their position of government. But the saints of the highest one will receive the kingdom. So when Jesus received this kingdom, he wasn't keeping it to himself, because we are joint heirs with him in authority and government. And what would they need to do? Possess the kingdom forever, for all ages to come. So this is not a kingdom and then there'll be a different kingdom and then a different kingdom. This kingdom will continue to grow and expand forever. And it says, for until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was passed in favor of the saints of the highest one. As a result of the cross, judgment has already been passed. That judgment is, we get to have authority. We've been given the authority through that judgment. And the time arrived when the saints took possession of the kingdom. That is what we're doing. Taking possession, what belongs to us, our inheritance in God as children of God, to bring government on the earth, as it is in heaven. But the court will sit for judgment, and his dominion will be taken away and annihilated and destroyed forever. That's talking about Satan's rule. That's why Satan was able to show Jesus all these governmental spheres on this mountain. But now, as a result of the cross, it's been taken away. He has no authority other than what we give him. Then the sovereignty, the dominion, and the greatness of all the kingdoms under the whole of heaven will be given to the people of the saints of the highest one. And get hold of that. The dominion and the greatness of all the kingdoms under the whole heaven will be given to the people of the saints of the highest one, you and me. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all the dominions will serve and obey him. That is just amazing. That he would take people like us who've messed up, he would restore us and redeem us and bring us back into sonship and wholeness and give us this sort of authority. But that is what he wants to do. And he's looking for a people who will say yes.
Engaging God. Get your free trial at freedomark.org/free trial.